Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda, and this is Victoria.
Hi.
And we're both from prana-thrive, and we specialize in personalized gut health programs. And today in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about probiotics. So probiotics is something that we definitely both use with our clients, but in a very specific way. But there is a lot of new information and research around probiotics, and it's definitely a very booming area and industry. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the different types of probiotics, but also other relevant microbiome supplements. I have personally been a naturopath for nearly 20 years. So I've been in this in the health industry for a long time. But if I go back about 10 years ago when I had a health food store, probiotics were really a very small range and very limited. So there was only a few different companies. Most of the different probiotics were maybe very similar, just in different brand names, but only a very few number of species that we actually had understanding and research that we could take in a probiotic supplement. Now it is a booming industry from all of the recent research in the last 5 years. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different brands and different formulations, but also many different species that are included in different probiotics. Some have many, are called multi-species. Some may be very limited and only have one or two. And they can definitely be used to target some really different areas of health. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about some of those different bacteria, just so you've got a little bit of an understanding of how probiotics can be helpful. Also, Victoria and I both use probiotics in a very specific way. So when we're working with clients, we're ideally doing an advanced type of microbiome test, which gives us a lot of information about the actual bacteria that you have or don't have and the different balances. So when we're using probiotics, we are prescribing them in a very specific way. But for a lot of people, depending on their level of health issues, probiotics, if you can find the right probiotic to suit your particular health needs, it can be extremely helpful. So for improving those areas of health. So we have an article on our website talking about probiotics and basically listing 22 up to 22 different species and what they can be helpful for. So if you do want more information on top of what we're talking about today, then there is a link in the description below to the full article on our website. So a lot of people ask, what is the difference between a probiotic, a prebiotic, and now there's a new area of probiotic supplement, or I should say microbiome supplements, called postbiotics. So a probiotic is the actual beneficial bacteria. So in our gut, we have many different types of bacteria, and there are probiotic supplements that we can take to actually help to recolonize those particular species, but also to help improve and increase the diversity of our microbiome. Then there is something called a prebiotic. Do you want to talk a little bit about what a prebiotic is, Victoria?
Yeah. So prebiotics are the food that probiotics consume. So in general, we're talking fiber. And so prebiotics tend to be various types of fiber from various sources that those probiotic bacteria feed off. And not all bacteria are classified as probiotic bacteria either. So there's a whole other stream of information there, but we'll keep it relevant.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely. And so prebiotics, I find it definitely when we're working with clients is something we recommend a lot. And they can be different for each different person, depending on what their health issues are. And they can be very simple foods, like sweet potato, for example, is a really great prebiotic food. Or it can be in the form of a supplement that may be something like, one of my favorites is arabinogalactin, which comes from the larch tree. So it is a plant-based fiber, but it's in a powdered form and in a supplement form that then can be added into water or into smoothies. And that really helps to feed certain bacteria, but it has some really important anti-inflammatory actions as well. And then we have the area of postbiotics, which possibly you may not have even heard of, but postbiotics are then the nutrients or compounds that our gut bacteria are producing. So ideally, we want to really focus on how we can improve our probiotic bacteria balance, and then using prebiotics, how we can feed those bacteria. But there is a new research around postbiotics, something, for example, butyrate. A lot of different bacteria do produce butyrate, but there are many health issues that indicate that your body may need extra butyrate. So that is classed as a postbiotic, as something you can take as a supplement. Ideally, I would recommend in the short term, but can be very helpful in combination with probiotics and prebiotics. So, but today we're going to talk more about probiotics. So we just wanted to give a little bit of a background. So Victoria is going to talk about a few different Lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is a group of bacteria. There are many different species, but there are some very important key species that can relate to different health issues that may, this information just may help you in understand what could be helpful for you depending on your health issues. So Victoria, if you just want to talk about some Lactobacillus.
Yeah. So probably the most well-known Lactobacillus that you'll find in probiotic supplements will be Lactobacillus acidophilus. It's been around the longest. It's very widely used in yogurt formulations, and other very early probiotics advertise Lactobacillus acidophilus as a little poster child for probiotics, and it is. It's native to our gut. It's been proven to alleviate IBS symptoms. It also helps with diarrhea. Lactobacillus acidophilus has been shown to help balance with any yeasts in the gut, as it does in female microbiome areas. And it also helps to reduce the symptoms of IBS. We'll see if you can catch any of that. Right. Another really common one that's quite often seen in probiotics is Lactobacillus plantarum. Lactobacillus plantarum is widely found in very many areas of the human microbiome, including the gut. There is lots of research to suggest that Lactobacillus plantarum is also one of the key players in boosting other lactobacilli species within your gut as well. So just its presence helps boost the diversity of the Lactobacillus genera on the whole, which is really, really helpful. It also has been proven to reduce intestinal permeability. So when Amanda will talk about things like leaky gut, that's what we're talking about, the tight junctions in between the gut lining cells. And again, it's also helpful for IBS and decreasing pain and bloating. What else? So we can also talk about, excuse me, we can also talk about Lactobacillus casei in the KCI group. There's 3 strains within that group. Most of them are found in dairy. Lactobacillus casei, if we see on your gut profile when we get your report that there's lots of casei, it can imply that you really enjoy your cheese. It's one of those that is included in a lot of dairy formulations, and the food microbiology market uses KCI quite a bit. It helps to maintain gut diversity and can also help to improve weight management as well, just specifically KCI. There's also para-KCI, which is found to be helpful in the treatment of Helicobacter pylori.
Yes.
And then we have Lactobacillus rhamnosus, which is amazing for your gut-brain axis, and lots of benefits with GABA receptors and neurotransmitter benefits with Lactobacillus rhamnosus in particular. Lots and lots of research around it, also helping to reduce food poisoning type pathogen impacts on your gut as well. And then we have Lactobacillus reuteri, which is Amanda's favorite. So I'll let Amanda speak about Lactobacillus reuteri.
Yeah, thanks, Victoria. Yes, it is one of my favorites. One, because I think it is one of the more newly researched, but still we have probably going from the last 3 years. But now it has been found to be beneficial for such a long list of health conditions. So the Lactobacillus reuteri has a very strong antimicrobial, so it definitely helps to work against yeast like Candida yeast. It has a fairly strong antiviral and also antibacterial against unwanted or pathogenic bacteria, including things like strep. And so then it can be used to treat a various number of health issues, particularly sinus-related issues, which often does link back to strep bacteria, but helping whether it's sinus infections, or if it's ongoing hay fever and allergy type symptoms. It's also a bacteria that can help with a range of different IBS symptoms, whether it's constipation related IBS or diarrhea based IBS, or actually both, which is actually the most common. So what I see in the clients that we've worked with over the years is the most common combination of IBS is actually, there are some bouts of loose bowel motions or diarrhea. Then there are days of slower and more constipation related, bloating, gas, and it can be changing all the time. So that would be what I would see would be the most common combination of IBS related symptoms. And the Reuteri can really help to address all of those because it's improving digestive pathways. And like Victoria just mentioned about the rhamnosus, it is also one of the gut-brain connecting bacteria. So it has really quite strong benefits on improving mood, reducing feelings of stress. Clients often mention improving their sleep, for example, or feeling that, they may still have the same level of stress, but that's affecting them less. They're feeling better in their day-to-day work or whatever activities that they're managing. And and lastly, just quickly, is skin inflammation. I definitely find that the Lactobacillus reuteri is extremely helpful for skin inflammation, whether it's eczema, dermatitis, even psoriasis. Psoriasis is more of an autoimmune skin inflammation that can be quite challenging to treat, but the reuteri I definitely find, when used in the right way, is excellent. And for many clients is actually, doctors will say you can't get rid of psoriasis, which is true in a way that an autoimmune condition is something you can manage. But I've had clients that have had years of being free of their psoriasis due to using not just that one probiotic, but definitely that's been a key player in their treatment plan. But many lactobacillus do help with skin inflammation, including rhamnosus as well. And then there's another group of very important group of bacteria called Bifido Bacteria, and there are a number of different species, many different species, but a couple of my favorites that I find really support different health issues is example Bifido longum. So Bifido longum is a bacteria that really helps with improving liver function. It improves digestive pathways. So again, IBS related symptoms, it's really helpful for. And even areas like cholesterol. A lot of people have high cholesterol, and the first thing their doctor will mention, oh, you need to cut out, animal fats. Yes, that could be the case. Then it's sugars, if you've got too many processed sugars in your diet. But a lot of clients that I work with have high cholesterol, and they have a very well balanced diet where they're not over consuming those foods. And they can be lacking some really important bacteria like Bifido longum, and that does has been proven to really improve cholesterol metabolism. And it's a lot to do with the liver as well. Our liver controls metabolism. Our liver controls cholesterol metabolism. Then there is another Bifido species called Bifido animalis. And the animalis is a very important immune supporting bacteria. So it has antiviral and antibacterial benefits. And so that can be used to, if you have an underactive immune system, if you're getting colds and flus more easily, helping with the recovery. And then there's another Bifido bacteria that I see a lot of people, when we're using testing, a lot of people are deficient in, and that's Bifido breva. And Bifido breva has really important benefits for improving B12 metabolism, or B12 production, I should say. And a lot of people find that they have low B12 levels when they have a blood test with their GP. And most of our B12 does come from different gut bacteria. So the breva is one of many species that does help with improving your B12 metabolism. And B12 is so important for energy, nervous system, digestive pathways, liver function. So using those different probiotic bacteria can definitely help to support many different pathways in the body.
Definitely. There's just to add something to the Breve, it's one of those that is found in the infant gut and comes through breast milk, and it's one of the original very beneficial Bifido that we can have for a very long time. We're very lucky if it does survive from our infancy through our life stages.
That's
maintaining a healthy microbiome.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where a lot of research is focusing now on the infant microbiome, and, you know, one, understanding why we're now experiencing as adults certain deficiencies, and looking to see, you know, what bacteria are really helpful that we ideally either should still have or can still have to improve areas of health. But looking back to, where they've started from is now going to be helpful for all the new generations. So, because it is still a very new area of research. So my children are nearly 11 and nearly 13. And I think with my second, I do remember taking some probiotics sparingly, I think, in my pregnancy, and I was a naturopath at that time. So I don't remember it being, a widely available or researched area at that point. But with my son, I do not remember probiotics for pregnancy being really an area that had been understood at all.
It was, my eldest is 8 turning 9, and it was just starting. Then there was starting to be some pregnancy probiotics, and even then there was questions around, is it actually a good idea or not? And so there was some talk about kefir and natural sources and food sources of probiotics that might have been a bit better, but still nobody knew back then. I guess that raises the question about what you think about food-based probiotics, Amanda.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's depending on the health issues. I always will recommend using probiotic supplements in combination with foods, because, you know, food is obviously a foundation of our health. So there is a lot that we can do with diet, though some people have already tried those things, and obviously that's been quite limited. But just for example, some really helpful probiotic based foods, which just means foods that actually contain some really important beneficial bacteria, all the different types of fermented foods, and they can come in many different forms. So it can be your yogurt or your coconut yogurt, your kefir, which can be dairy based or coconut based. Kombucha has become huge. I think it's important to be wary maybe of how much you consume kombucha and the different types, because they are a great soft drink alternatives, but some can definitely be fairly high in sugar still. That is not something you want to be consuming on a daily basis.
Especially the commercial varieties, because there's obviously lots of people that make it at home, but there's also the consideration of when you make it at home, it's actually got a little bit of alcohol in it, and also lots of yeast. If you have issues with yeast, there's lots of yeast in kombucha too. So
that's right. And I think there's definitely some, because there's a lot of brands now of kombucha, and there's definitely some really some of the original brands I've noticed that are it'll even state on the label that the yeasts have been extracted, or the sugars have all been fermented out, and you can taste the difference as well. So there's a few brands that I will choose over others if I'm wanting to, you know, buy some kombucha rather than making it, and it doesn't have a sweet taste at all. And then there are other brands that it really has been made to be more of an enjoyable drink, and that's understandable. But they're often, like you said, yes, there's still those extra yeast or sugars. And even just when I'm recommending kombucha, if I do, like for some people, they already have plenty of Lactobacillus bacteria, because that's, for example, that is a group of the different species that are naturally found in kombucha. Sometimes people have actually consumed far too much kombucha and then have thrown out their balance. And that's why it's just so important to have the right balance of bacteria. And it's not always easy to know. So that, for example, Victoria mentioned about certain Lactobacillus, like the acidophilus, helping with working against yeast. And so then you could be thinking, well, kombucha is a great source of Lactobacillus, but then that could actually increase different yeasts that could create the same symptoms as well. So it's finding the right balance. And then other fermented foods like miso, for example, tempeh, kimchi, sauerkraut. Actually, if you want to try any type of fermented foods, for most people, I do find sauerkraut is the best place to start. It's the most easily tolerated. Traditionally, sauerkraut is fermented cabbage. There are many other types of sauerkraut though now as well, with different vegetables added, or different like fennel, different spices and things. So if you haven't tried before, it's probably good to just go with a basic sauerkraut, and a very small amount. So you only need, just basically a spoonful or a couple of like teaspoon or tablespoons, but really just starting with small amounts and just adding to a meal maybe once a day or every couple of days. And, that can be really helpful to balance some of your bacteria.
Definitely. I always just mention to clients that if you do want to start with sauerkraut that you haven't actually made yourself, which is
Yes.
very fun to do, but you make sure it hasn't been heat treated or pasteurized.
Yes.
If you do buy it, you buy it from a health food store or an organic shop. Otherwise there's no bacteria left. It tastes like sauerkraut because it is still sauerkraut, but those organisms have been
Definitely
made redundant.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. I do mention to clients as well, it's good to look for it in the fridge. So if it's in the fridge, it's been fermented, it needs to be kept cold. If it's on the shelf, then ideally it's still sauerkraut, but it's not going to contain those beneficial bacteria. It's more a pickled sort of version.
Yeah.
So looking in the fridge is a good option. And organic if you can, it's even better. So that's all we're going to talk about today in this video. There are so many other bacteria that we're going to talk about in other videos, but just wanted to give you a really, I guess, sort of a bit of an explanation of some different probiotics and how they can be helpful. And so we really hope that you enjoyed this information and look out for more videos to come. Bye.
Bye.